Somewhere Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 68. Chapter 17. Tick. You both need to go home, Shouta said bluntly, stepping into Izuku's bedroom. The boy in question had been home from the hospital for around a week, and he was lounging in his bed, hugging a plushie and watching Denki fiddle with some contraption. Hitoshi was sitting on the floor, a bright red book in his hands. He'd thought the child mainly communicated in sign language. Perhaps he wasn't entirely fluent yet. Denki hummed absentmindedly, still messing with the bit of metal and screws in his hands. He didn't have any tools. Shouta had no idea what the child thought he was doing. Home, Denki. You need to go home. Izuku has an appointment soon. Hizashi and I will drive you both. He heard footsteps behind him, and when he turned to look, he saw his fiancée leaning against the doorway. Yes, sir, Denki mumbled, tweaking the metal bit around one more time before shoving it into his pocket of the shorts. He looked endlessly disappointed, or as disappointed as a child his age could be. We'll get sundaes on the way there, Hizashi explained with a grin, and the disappointment immediately melted off the boy's face. Even Hitoshi's interest seemed to be piqued. Chocolate strawberry swirl? Denki requested, and Hizashi nodded. Anything you want, kiddo. Anything? The boy gasped. Izuku sat up slightly, and his grin practically split his face. Within reason, Hizashi quickly amended that. Nothing over 500 yen. Denki and Izuku slumped, though Hitoshi still looked happy at the premise of ice cream. Off to the car, Hizashi crowded, and Izuku and Denki gave half-hearted cheers. Hitoshi was bouncing with each step he took towards the car. Shouta had never seen the boy so excited before. The pain from Izuku's broken ribs had long since faded, nothing more than a small twinge of discomfort now. But walking down the stairs was still difficult for the boy. That's why, when they reached the steps leading down the apartment, Hizashi swept the boy over his feet and ran him down the stairwell with a crackle that echoed off the walls. Denki giggled and followed, right on their heels, while Hitoshi stuck close to Shota's side, going down each step with slow, practiced care. They reached the car, and all three children squeezed themselves into the back seat. Hizashi debated amicably with Denki over what type of ice creams they were accepting. I'm sorry, little man, but mint chocolate chip is disgusting, and I won't be spending any of my money on it. But, Mr. Sashi, what kind of ice cream do you want, Toshi? Izuku asked, poking said boy on the shoulder. Hitoshi frowned in concentration, eyebrows frowning, and teeth digging into his lip as his hand formed clumpily near incoherent signs. Shouta watched him from the rearview mirror. He was spelling something out with his hand letters, just like Hizashi had suggested when he wasn't sure of a particular word or phrase, but they were so slow and meshed together that Shouta could hardly understand them. Sherbert, Shouta prompted, and the other boy nodded, grinning. He was missing one of his bottom teeth row. Izuku had a loose tooth. Shouta was dreading when the boy would inevitably try and yank it out. Orange sherbet. He nodded again. We can do that, Hizashi exclaimed, pulling off the main road towards a small, family-owned ice cream parlor. They pulled up alongside the drive-thru, since they didn't really have time to go inside, idly waiting for the car, instead to pull them away. Is your brother and sister going to be jealous if we don't get ice cream for them? Hizashi asked, pulling out his wallet and counting bills. Shouta had his head leaning against the passenger side window, gazing out the little patch of land just off the parlor, and all the passing cars on the main road. He could see the fluffed-up tail of a rabbit sticking out the top of the grass. My brother isn't home, Denki responded. My sister might, but I can just share with her. Cabbage, look, Shouta said, pointing at the window at the small rabbit. Izuku glanced out the window, jaw dropping and eyes going wide as dinner plates. His hand was pressed against the glass of the window, and he looked like he was a second away from hopping out the window and chasing after the rabbit himself. The creature poked his head up and out of the grass. It's a bunny, Unky Show, Izuku whispered. Like if he talked any louder, the rabbit would notice his presence and hop away. In this city? That's odd, Hizashi noted, rolling down his window. Shouta had to nod in agreement. He hadn't seen an actual rabbit in years, not since a field trip to a preserve to learn about nature heroes back in his second year. It was an odd thing to look at. "Hey, honey, what can I get for you?" A woman with light blue pigtails and hot pink eyes asked. Hizashi hummed, counting out his money out of habit. Should have found himself wincing as each bill was passed from one hand to another. They were doing a lot better financially than they had been before, but money was still tight, especially with the wedding coming up, and some habits never died. He felt a spike of anxiety at the thought of the wedding. It would cost more money than he cared to think about. Maybe he could sell one of his kidneys. Was it legal to sell a kidney? Sho? What do you want? I already ordered for the boys," Hizashi asked, glancing his way. Shouta glanced at the menu, nailed up against the outer wall. "Scoop of vanilla," he said, leaning back in his seat. Hizashi rolled his eyes. "You'll have 2 scoops of chocolate fudge ice cream with marshmallows, chocolate sprinkles, and..." He glanced at the menu again. "Throw in some grounded up peanut butter cups, too, while you're at it." "I said vanilla." "My money, babe." The woman flexed her fingers, and one after another, 5 bowls of ice cream hopped from the window shop down into Hisashi's hand. The woman, he knew, had a quirk that was quite similar to levitation. Don't think, in the fact that she could make things float, but, as she explained to an excited Izuku, she could only use it in short, second-long bursts. She could only use it on small, light objects at a time, and it didn't work on anything living. Overall, a useful, albeit limited, quirk, and certainly entertaining in a work setting. Hizashi pressed 3 bowls back to the boys: chocolate and strawberry swirls with walnuts, orange sherbet with a plastic spoon, a banana split with caramel sauce instead of chocolate, and the group parked outside the parlor so they could enjoy their ice cream before it had the chance to melt. Shouta glared at Hizashi as he took a bite of his. "Stop your pouting. I know chocolate's your favorite," Hizashi teased. He grabbed the receipt from where Hizashi had placed it on the cup holder, and Hizashi snatched it out of his hands before he had the chance to look at it. "Don't worry about that," Hizashi stated, crumbling the receipt into a little ball and shoving it into his wallet. "Just enjoy your ice cream." They dropped Hitoshi off first at the large apartment. Traffic was horrible, considering that the apartment was right next to the hospital, but Shouta managed to walk the child into the apartment building. "Which room is yours?" he asked. The child grabbed a hold of his sleeve and dragged him towards a green-carpeted staircase, stopping in front of a room with a chipped number on the door and several markers and crayon marks on the frame. Hitoshi knocked on the door, and a moment later, a petite old woman with gray-streaked, marbled hair and icy blue eyes opened the door. "I was wondering when you were going to be home, Hitoshi." The woman greeted kindly. Hitoshi shrugged, letting go of Shota's hand, and stepping into the apartment, disappearing around a corner a moment later. "You must be the famous Eraserhead." Her smile was sweet. She smelled like cinnamon rolls. "Hitoshi's told me a lot about you. He's a big fan." Shouta rocked back and forth on his heels. He wasn't sure how to excuse himself politely. The woman was obviously trying to make small talk. She stuck in her hand. Shouta shook it. "I'm Hitoshi's grandmother," she explained. "I stay over quite a bit. I watch him while my son is at the hospital, you understand?" Shouta nodded. "Is Shinsou home? Or his mother?" They both might be working. It was rare for Shouta to ever see Shinsou without the white coat on, and he'd never seen Hitoshi's mother at all. Her smile thinned down to nothing. "My boy's at work," she responded. She didn't say anything in regards to Hitoshi's mother. Shouta didn't ask. "I have to be going. My nephew has an appointment." The woman nodded in understanding, giving him one last kind smile before shutting the apartment door. The drive to Denki's house took about half an hour, the traffic crowding the streets not included, and for a moment, Shouta had worried that they wouldn't make it to Izuku's appointment on time. Denki's little sister, Shouta forgot her name, was sitting on the porch, drawing a butterfly with chalky fingertips. "Hello, Miss Ayo," Hizashi said, smiling down at the little girl. Denki was standing between him and Hizashi, bouncing up and down on the tips of his toes. "Are your mom and dad home?" Ayo shrugged. "Maybe Mama. No, maybe? I don't know." The child looked at her chalk-covered hands and thought, as if they would show her all the answers to her questions. There wasn't a car in the drive, and through the windows it was clear to see it was empty and dark inside. Daddy is gone working, I think. Hi, Denki. Denki sat next to her on the porch, smiling approvingly at her butterfly drawing. Hizashi seemed to be at a loss. Can we really leave them here if their parents aren't home? He muttered. Shouta honestly had no idea. I could take the child to his appointment and you could stay with them for now. Shouta suggested, eyes continually being pulled back towards the car, where Izuku was still, reluctantly, waiting inside. I don't know. Hizashi frowned. I mean, if their parents come back, a grown man sitting in their house is gonna look kinda weird. Shouta shrugged. Why can't we just leave them alone? Shouta stated. A neighbor? Our neighbors don't like us. Denki piped up from the front porch. At the same time, little Akio explained. No, thank you. Miss Akio, Hizashi said to the little girl. We seem to be in a little bit of a predicament. Akio frowned. Predicament means problem, Denki exclaimed. Akio frowned. We made a problem? She asked, looking endlessly confused. Denki frowned, seemingly concerned. Oh, no, it's just, we can't really leave you alone without your parents here, and so we didn't make a problem. No problems. We're in a pickle, Denki exclaimed, nodding resolutely. Yes, a pickle. No problem here, little miss, I promise. Akio nodded solemnly, beginning to scribble more little odds and ends onto the porch with her chalk, while Denki shaded the drawing she had already created. We're gonna be late. Okay, 1 second. Hizashi sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. Okay, I'll just stay out here on the porch with the kids, and I can call you or Nem when their parents come back, or their older brother. Shouta nodded, turning his heel and quickly walking back towards the car. Bye, Mr. Sho! Denki called after him. When he turned back to wave, he saw the little girl too, Akio, climbing onto Denki's back and waving vigorously. He climbed back into the car, reveering into the engine, and telling a distracted Izuku to buck himself back up. Akio seemed quite a bit like Denki. They were both good kids. Okay, this was a sweet chapter. This was a sweet, nice, cute chapter. What are you planning? What is brewing? This is sweet and nice. Well, I mean, we just come back from a really, really bad thing. So it's just sweet fluffiness of recovering. So, yeah. Also, I love the whole moment with Mike, ordering what Aizawa wants. Like, I wouldn't have captured that. Like, Aizawa just being like, vanilla, right? 1 scoop vanilla, right? Like, Hizashi immediately capped that, like, okay, yeah, no, we're not doing that, right? I'm getting you what you actually want. And I love that. I fucking love that. I love how Hizashi knows what he wants. And 2, very much Shouta is, again, old habits die hard. So he probably looked at the menu, was like, okay, what's the cheapest? 1 scoop vanilla, boom. Cheapest, that. As soon as I said that, my partner just told me about how they got, not vanilla ice cream, but ice cream. I'll text him in a second because I can't text and talk at the same time. Unfortunately, that's a thing that I cannot do. Like, what the fuck? Give me the ability, please, God, to be able to text and, talk at the same time. I would very much appreciate that. Thank you. But overall, this was a sweet, lighthearted, cute, chapter. Like, nothing, big happens in the chapter, right? But nothing small happens. Although I will say, I do have a thing that I want to talk about. Denki's parents. I'm sorry. How old is Denki's sister? Right? Is it little sister? Even if it's big sister, it's not big enough so, like, okay. Yeah, no, leaving your kid alone outside too. Like, it's one thing to leave your kids alone, with, like, let's say an older sibling, right? Like 13, 14 for like a couple hours or like an hour or two because like you need to go out do errands or whatever and you can't bring them with you for whatever reason. But like you leave them inside. I'm sorry. Leaving your child outside unattended, around Denki's age. So either above 6 years old or below 6 years old. Unattended. Outside. In the front. That's not good. That's not good. That's not. I think you would like Dells. There's lots of. Oh my god. Gotta stop convincing me, dude. I'm moving on. No, I don't like that. I'm sorry. That is endangerment. The child could run up into the street. The child could get kidnapped. Like, I'm sorry, that's not an okay thing to do. It's one thing to, leave your child unattended inside. I'd be like, okay, you have to go do something, therefore you do whatever, right? But outside? In the front porch? No. No. Also, what did they do to get the neighbors not to like them? That's my question. Are we gonna get a reveal on that? Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.